we know it's potentially damaging, or it is damaging. It's borderline unethical. But even if it wasn't damaging and it was ethical, it doesn't work.
Damien Andrews, NEXTGENX professional, and today we are venturing into the dark side and how to stay in the light. With me is Peter Anthony. Pleasure to have you, Peter. How are you today?
G'day, Damien. Particularly excited because I like talking about the dark side.
Yeah, the dark side of
Into the
sales. I
light.
mean, we've got all these different things like manipulative tactics. I mean, have you ever seen people use manipulative tactics work well?
No, I haven't seen it work well. I've seen it taught a lot of sales books, um, going back to Tom Collins and all the other early sales so-called gurus, like having manipulative closing techniques and special questions you ask and getting people into these islands of interest. And the problem with the dark side is that it doesn't work, and it's worse than not working. It damages the relationship and damages your credibility, particularly in terms of the sorts of tactics you're talking about now.
Oh, exactly. The part that I think people overlook with that, and certainly from my experience, having the opposite experience, is that the bulk of the sales, bulk of the revenue that I get is from repeat business. And if you're using a manipulative tactic, which implies that you're not going to deliver what you say you're going to deliver, it's hard to make that relationship work over the long time. I don't know if you've had that experience or not, where you're trying to, someone's got a misunderstanding of what's gone on. And then you're trying to rebuild the relationship, which is always very, very challenging. And that's
Yeah.
where I think this whole manipulative tactic of trying to convince someone that you must do this and pushing it scares people away. And also too, I think we're a lot more sophisticated now. People are aware this kind of thing happens. Is that
Yeah.
your feeling as well, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely. If you think of manipulation, if you've got, and you think of like all the great approaches like the prisoner's dilemma, when people like Robert Axelrod, and you think, if it is a short-term relationship, if you're just selling it once, and you're making your money, you're never seeing that customer or that client again, and you've got no ethics, you could potentially go to the dark side and make a lot of single instance sales. But if we're working in a professional service environment, as we are, we know that when we do go to the dark side and we do attempt to manipulate, the other person is feeling that manipulation too, and it has the opposite impact of creating a long-term profitable relationship. So the dark side, in terms of manipulation, doesn't work. We all know that those bigger, broader, deeper relationships, longer term, are what works. What are some other parts of the dark side that don't work, Dane?
Oh, definitely. Staying, not lack of transparency. That's a definite one. I know we're experiencing that a lot at the moment. There's, well, certainly from Australia's perspective, the polarization with a certain voting that's coming up at the moment was because of a lack of transparency at the start didn't help. But certainly, as you're moving into working with people, being able to be transparent about what's going on, it creates trust. When people are wondering what's going on, what's happening, you think about it from a relationship perspective. If you're in a relationship with someone and they're keeping secrets from you, and you're wondering what is it, what's going on, and it creates distrust. And for sales to work, you need to create trust. Is that your experience too, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely. Like particularly when you're working in a government environment, or you're pitching or bidding for government work. Obviously, probity and trust are crucial, and some of the big accounting firms, professional services accounting firms, are feeling that now, that so-called perceived lack of probity in their practices, and having the federal government at least as a client. So we know it's potentially damaging, or it is damaging. It's borderline unethical.
Mm.
But even if it wasn't damaging and it was ethical, it doesn't work as well as being transparent. And the risk of transparency is that you may lose client opportunities, and you definitely will. But what you'll gain is bigger, better, faster opportunities. You can win a lot easier because you're being more ideal and more transparent to the clients that are looking for that sort of relationship, and you get better at building those long-term, transparent, trusting relationships.
Yeah, definitely, Peter. It's really critical. What about playing on emotions where someone exploits buyers' fears or insecurities or their emotional
Yeah,
state to push a stale?
yeah.
Yeah, I think it does make it stale. But
So makes the sales stale. Yeah, this emotional one's a lot more complicated because you think as someone that's professional in client service, a client service director, or someone running big clients in a big firm, we obviously need to be aware of the emotional state of the clients we're working with, like how they're feeling now and how they would like to feel. Because you think you're either when you're selling a service, you are selling a promise of something being better in the future, either a problem being dissipated or a opportunity being realized. And you are, to some extent, you are selling a sense of confidence in that outcome being achieved.
mm,
So there is an emotional intelligence involved in that, but and to some extent, you're playing on their emotions, like you're understanding them. But I guess for me, Damien, it comes back to what is your intent. If
mm,
your intent is to play on their emotions to get an unfair advantage, no, that's not going to work. If your intent is to use a level of emotional intelligence to understand how the client wants to feel, and you can deliver that to them, that's a worthwhile cause of action, don't you think?
oh, definitely, Peter. And when you're talking about unfair as well, before we move into the light side, what about unfair competition? I mean, what's your experience with mouthing competitors and using
Uh,
unscrupulous tactics to undermine competitors? How does that fit? And what is your experience with people using those tactics?
well, my experience is that if you're properly positioned, you don't need to reposition the competitor because you're talking to an intelligent client
Mm,
who's already got a perception of a competitor. So we don't need to attempt to reposition them in the mind uh, of the client. What we need to do is to create a value proposition for them that's based on a unique understanding of their needs and their environment, and that in a way that makes them prefer you over a competitor. So it's more a matter of being better or more relevant, or giving them a more likely outcome with
mm,
you than with a competitor, as opposed to disparaging them. The other dangerous thing about disparaging competitors is that if you're dealing in an environment where there is a competitor of yours is an incumbent, there
mhm,
could be good, strong relationships in your potential client organisation you're attempting to win, and by disparaging them or down mouthing them, you're impliedly criticising the client too for choosing them or for considering them.
mm,
So it's not a matter of saying mine's bigger, better, faster, shinier than yours. It's more a matter of saying, hey, here's our here's our particular approach to solving this brief, solving this problem, is unique, and better in a way that's preferential for you, and not really bother with the competitor.
And I've also found when someone's done that to me, because 'cause I've had that experience, my immediately my immediate thought goes to gossip and, when I'm not in the room, what are you gonna be saying about me? And I
Mm.
immediately creates a barrier between me and that person, which also I don't think helps a lot. But if we move from there and let's go and visit Yoda and the light side and Obi-Wan, what are some skills that you think help you stay in the light with sales? Is it, I mean, educating rather than manipulating? What are some other skills that you would add into that, or how would you expand
Y-
on that?
Yes, I guess that's a great word, Damien. Educating, I guess, educating the client in how to have a relationship with you, or what sort of relationship you're looking for,
Mm,
and the sort of relationship in professional services that works the best is putting the problem or the opportunity at the center of the relationship, and you're effectively working with the client against the problem or with the opportunity. And when we look at it that way, that's when you're in the light, because you're both on the same side, if you like. And typically in bigger briefs and bigger jobs, bigger opportunities, you're both working together. There's key people from your organisation, key people from the client organisation that are working on delivering that project or that particular client opportunity, uh, either de-risking it or maximising a profit potential from it.
And if we take it a step further, one of those elements that I think in the light side that is often overlooked is seeking feedback. And seeking feedback, whether they're a client or not, if you've done a sales pitch and you didn't get the sale, seeking feedback adds another element in that you're listening. How has that? How have you seen that work in your experience, Peter?
Yeah, it's a great point, Damien. And you think, well, if you accept the proposition that fee income and revenue follows relationship, which it
Mm,
does, as the relationship broadens and deepens, so too does the revenue broaden and deepen, both short term and longer term. You think, well, um, how do we? And you can ask this question quite openly to the client. You'd say, look, we are really keen to work with you. Like if it's a new client, or really keen to grow with you. If it's an existing client, you'd like to expand, and you think, how do we make this relationship work better for you, and work out some markers of the relationship in terms of like serviceability, accountability, accessibility, technical expertise, whatever those key markers are, and start asking questions like, how do you experience us now? And ideally, how would you like to experience us?
mm,
And have that open conversation. And you'd be surprised. The clients we work with are surprised by how often clients respond to that sort of conversation, whether it's over Zoom or whether it's face to face in a room. And they want a good relationship too. Not as if that you want a great relationship and they don't,
mm,
because the smart clients that you're looking at, that you're looking for, are looking for a preferred ideal relationship as well.
mm.
So effectively, you're both looking for the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. That key word that you're talking about there is relationship. And if you want to stay in the light, focusing on building the relationship, building a long-term relationship, a long-term relationship that evolves and continues to grow is how to stay in the light. So there's some of the key things of how to stay out of the dark side and move towards the light as far as sales is going. If you'd like to learn more about NextGenX, feel free to reach out to Peter and myself, and we can certainly help you on your path to professional sales.